Good morning. Welcome to today's webinar, Reporting and Analytics for Dynamics ERP You Can't Afford to Ignore. My name is Sartaj, and I'll be your moderator this morning. In front of you, you will see your webinar pane. Please note that the orange arrow will allow you to minimize or maximize the pane. If it is minimized, simply click on the orange arrow to bring it back. Feel free to submit any questions that you have for our presenters throughout the duration of the webinar. Our presenters will handle questions at the end of the webinar as time permits. All webinar participants will receive an email in the next 48 hours with a link for a copy of the webinar slides and a video of the recorded webinar. If you are using your telephone to listen in on our webinar, please make sure you select Use Telephone. If you're listening through your computer speakers, please select Use Mic and Speakers. If you have the incorrect settings selected, it will produce an echo sound. With that, I'd like to present our presenters this morning. First up is John Dunican. John is a consulting partner, part of our CFO advisory group at Armanino. John has over 30 years of financial, executive, operations, and consulting experience in public and private companies. He's held positions including CFO, Vice President of Finance and Administration, as well as Controller. Next is John Horner. John is also part of our consulting group and leads the business intelligence practice. John has over 10 years of industry experience with 8 years in consulting, applying best practices in industry knowledge to data warehouse and business intelligence implementations for a variety of industries, including retail, distribution, manufacturing, professional services, and utilities. Okay, I'm going to turn over the presentation to John Dunican now for an overview.
Thank you, Sartaj. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to spend a few minutes talking about why Dynamics Insight for Dynamics AX and GP. We're going to do a quick overview of Dynamics Insight. We're going to do a couple of case studies related to one of our clients that has used this extensively. Then we're going to do a real brief demo of the budgeting and forecasting and planning side of Dynamics Insight, and then we'll jump into the business analytics dashboards for Dynamics Insights.
So to kick off, first we're going to do a polling question. The first question we have for you is, what tools are you using for budgeting for business intelligence? Your options are Microsoft BI, ClickView, Excel, or D, none of the above. We'll give you just a couple moments to enter in your selections. We've got almost all the votes here now. All right, so I guess no surprise, right? So right now what we see as results for the poll is that 91% of you are using Excel for your business intelligence, with the majority of the rest going for Microsoft BI. Okay.
You're really not much surprise in those results. Clearly, Microsoft Excel is a great personal productivity tool, and people do tend to use it extensively for this kind of information. Not necessarily the most effective way to do it, but certainly the most common. We see that all the time. So Dynamics Insight is really about three things. It's really about financial reporting, budgeting, forecasting, and financial planning and business analytics. As we saw in the survey, most people, or Excel is very heavily used for all three of these, but there really are much better tools out there. What we're trying to help our clients do is become much more efficient in how they do their financial reporting, analytics, and budgeting, forecasting, and really kind of help them move to a real leadership position in their companies by being able to spend much more time on focusing on really kind of the analytics and really the business side of what has to be done, and spend a lot less time in Excel manipulation, creating Excel files, updating Excel files, a lot of those very low-value activities that come with Excel. So that's really what we're going to try to do. We're going to spend a few minutes talking about that this morning. So a couple of kind of real-world scenarios around Dynamics, Dynamic Insights. Clearly, if you're a small company, single user, Excel works fine. There are other tools that are real simple. But when you get into real-world scenarios, very often things get a lot more complex. Many of our clients have multi-system environments. Ideally, you would always have one general ledger that would run the whole company. But the reality is, because of acquisitions, things change over time. Many companies have multiple general ledgers because they have different locations, different business units. They often have different general ledger systems. Likewise, when we talk about multi-system environments, we're not just talking about the general ledger. We're talking about your payroll system. Most people are using a system like Paychex or ADP, one of those. Many people are using things like Salesforce or Microsoft CRM. People are using all kinds of other subsystems, whether it be other line systems like Concur, where you want to bring information from many different systems and really kind of analyze all that system. Clearly, when you're doing that using Excel, that can be very inefficient. I mentioned kind of real briefly mergers and acquisitions. Clearly, when you acquire a company or merge with a company, life gets a lot harder for financial reporting, because you really now need to bring in different business units that haven't worked together before and kind of really combine that information. Talked a little bit, kind of really touched on the parent, subsidiary, or hub and spoke kind of environment where you've got multiple general ledgers, multiple systems out there. And of course, then if you happen to work for like a VC or you're owned by a VC, a private equity group, any of those kind of investor groups, that you're one of a portfolio company, or you have controlling a lot of portfolio companies. Clearly, then you look across many different systems, many different companies that you want to pull information from. If you're sitting at the portfolio level, if you're down in an individual company, you need to provide that information up in a portfolio company, and that's often a very different look at the system and the information that you're used to looking at. So having a much more flexible tool is very, very efficient to do that quickly. Okay, so we're going to talk about a client case study that really kind of used who's really kind of used Dynamics Insights very extensively. The company is one of our clients. It's Rimini Street. Really, for them, the Dynamics Insight there were really two sides to it. They are actually an AX client, so they're using Dynamics AX for their ERP system. For their budgeting and forecasting, they use that we help them implement Dynamics Insights. They have 15 users on Dynamic Insights, different users being basically the business line managers and department managers, who need to be able to not only do budget and forecasts for their individual business units, but also need to be able to see the results on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, look at their actuals versus their budget, do updated forecasts. So the model provides the ability to do all those things very quickly and easily, and provide that information as soon as the budget is done, or by individual department manager, or their updated forecast is done. That information is immediately consolidated all the way up. There's no emailing Excel files back and forth. That information is immediately available. It also allows to do extensive headcount planning. Rimini Street being like a lot of companies here in the Bay Area, being very headcount oriented. The ability to plan headcount in detail down to the department level, as well as not just salaries, but also all related taxes and benefits and all the associated costs, down to the individual level, is very critical. And by using Dynamic Insights, we can really extend that information out to the business units and then roll that information up very quickly. We also, of course, it's not just about people, but it's also about looking at your results by product and by department, by customer. And so really looking for a tool like Dynamic Insights that really enables you to do that You really kind of have that view of the business all the way down to that level. And of course, then you've got shared expenses and allocation among the various business units, so that you can really look at a fully loaded P&L and really understand the cost of the business. What all this enables you to do, in this particular client, Rimini Street, is they actually, like a lot of companies, they're always trying to manage cash, make sure they're in great shape. So they're actually doing weekly cash flow forecasts, and they can do those very dynamically, depending on new customers, new contracts, changes in expenses, and even down, of course, to just changes of payment, timing of payments from customers and payments to vendors. So it's really the ability to really kind of drive down and have that flexibility is really what we're trying to move to with Dynamic Insights. It's really kind of the focus of what this tool really enables you to do.
Thanks, John. And yeah, from still talking about Rimini Street here from a BI perspective, we also plugged in the Dynamic Insights BI piece for them. Again, Dynamics AX was the primary data source here, mixed in with a subset of some of the adaptive planning data for some very high-level views. But the BI set really here at Rimini Street allows them to get down to a little bit more granular level from a daily perspective, and perhaps looking at some of the products or customers that may go beyond a traditional budgeting perspective. So once you start dealing right down at the real granular levels, oftentimes you've gone past traditionally where people budget to. So from that perspective, the two solutions combine here to give Rimini Street the views that they want. They get their financial reporting from the piece that John talked about there, but if they want to delve deeper into some of the trends and some of the insights that they can get from their actual data alone, then they can jump into the BI sector here. We have three primary dashboards that have been deployed within Rimini Street: a finance dashboard, a contracts and sales dashboard, and an ops review dashboard. Again, just enabling them to drill down right from the very high level, but right down to detailed transactional level data that comes out of AX.
Okay, and with that, we're going to do our second polling question, which you'll see in front of you. What tools are you using for your budgeting? The first option is A, Excel, B, Adaptive Insights, C, is it a legacy system? It could be Hyperion, Cognos, Business Objects. All right. We'll give you one more second to get your votes in. Okay. Wow, okay. So 100% of you, all of you, are doing your budgeting with Excel right now.
I guess we know. No, it's not surprising at all. I guess you know why we're here this morning. That's great. No, it's not at all surprising, and and hopefully we can give you some alternatives, or make you think about some alternatives to make your life a lot easier. Because doing this in Excel can become very, very painful. All right, so what is Dynamics Insights all about? We kind of talked about it at a very, very high level. So it's really kind of a very simple concept. It's really the ability to just share data between the different systems you have. We've all got an ERP system, and I don't know, I'm guessing most of you are using AX or GP for your ERP, although we might have folks using any other system, QuickBooks, or maybe we even have some Oracle Hyperion folks or some Oracle folks out there, who knows. But clearly you all have a general ledger ERP system. So what Dynamics Insights is all about is really very efficiently moving data from your ERP system into your budgeting planning tool, into Dynamics Insights is the budgeting forecasting tool we're talking about, moving the data very quickly and easily into your BI tool, and then moving data even between the BI tool and Adaptive Insights, so that no matter where you are, which system you're looking at, you're always looking at the same data, which is critical. Since you're all using Excel, I'm sure you're all very aware of the pain of maintaining multiple Excel files, and you're never quite sure of which has been updated, which hasn't, how many different versions of the truth are out there, depending on whether you've updated the latest forecast with the latest actual files, and that constant pain you have of maintaining all those files. I've kind of having built a lot of Excel files, I'm very familiar with that. So really, Dynamics Insights is about having all the data in all of your systems always current, always up to date. So no matter where you are and what you need to do, it's always just a click away. So that's really kind of at a high level. It's about moving data between the three various systems very quickly and efficiently.
All right, thanks, John. And we'll just spend 5 minutes here walking through some of that process. So what is included certainly from a BI perspective here, is the extraction of data from AX, and then loading that in, transforming that and loading that into the budgeting planning side of things or the BI analytics side of things. We have predefined Microsoft-based data mart for AX and NAV and GP. That includes GL, sales ledger data, purchase ledger data. So all of the sub-ledgers that make up that finance and sales data, including inventory, is part of the predefined data mart that is part of this solution. It plugs in automatically into AX. And then from a BI perspective, we have three pre-designed self-service user dashboards. So we have a sales dashboard, a finance dashboard, and an executive dashboard. We'll share a little bit of that today with you in the demo. So as well as these kind of three items here, you do get the capability to extend this beyond what is predefined. So you are buying into a platform here, if you like, for extending across the rest of your business, but it gives you something immediately from your Dynamics solution and gets you up and running on day one. So I'm just going to visually walk through really these points here, just so that you can kind of see what we're doing. So on the left-hand side here, we have the very traditional ETL process where we take data from your ERP GL system, as John talked about, from Dynamics AX, Dynamics GP, and we will store that into a data warehouse environment, or indeed place it directly into the budgeting and planning solution. So this isn't the only route, it's just an example of how we do it. In the middle section there, we have the data mart that stores all of this data for historical purposes. One of the things that we see a lot of, I think, is where customers are moving on to GP or AX, they may have a legacy environment in place already. And so one of the things that we see is of immediate use is this ability to store your historic data from your legacy ERP system or GL system into this data mart so that it can be shared with your new AX and GP system once you've got live with that, to give you a longer historical view and analysis of your business. A lot of times when you're migrating from a legacy system into AX or GP, you don't necessarily bring all that historic data with you. So this can be a useful solution for that purpose. And then finally, once we've got the data stored and it's in our environment, then we can start to build user interfaces on top of that to deliver your financial reporting or your dashboards or your analytics, whatever the capabilities might be. So that's, generally speaking, the kind of data flow and the combination of the ERP with the budgeting, planning, and the business intelligence piece of Dynamic Insights.
Okay, so we're going to jump now to a couple quick demos just for a couple minutes. First, we're going to take a look at Adaptive Insights, and then we're going to take a look at the BI solution using ClickView. Okay. So let's see here. Okay, so you should hopefully now you can all see my screen and what we've got going on here. So I've already logged into Adaptive Insights. Adaptive Insights is a SaaS-based budgeting, forecasting, financial reporting tool. What that enables you to do very efficiently is have all of your information in the cloud, which means it's always accessible to all of your business managers, no matter where they are or what system they're working on. All they need is a browser, and they can immediately access the system. In the interest of time, I'm just going to go hit a couple of the highlights here on how Adaptive works. When you first log in, you can essentially select where you want to start. And I've just got some very simple dashboards here that things you might look at if you're an executive, maybe you're the CFO, the CEO, or maybe you're the controller, or even a business manager. These dashboards are all when they're all set up to be very specific to what the information you want to see and how you want to see it. A lot of flexibility here. But right here from the dashboard, we can drill into any of this information real quickly. Like we're sitting at the total company, but we're sitting for expenses here, for instance. If I click on that, we can drill right in. You can explore down into the data. You can drill all the way down into each level, the various companies you have. At any point, you can even drill into the real detail underlying the data. So you can drill right down into the transactions right from the dashboard. It's obviously a very, very effective way of looking at your information very, very quickly. More importantly, particularly when we're talking about budget managers or the finance department, at the end of the day, it's all about income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow. So that's really what you're going to be looking at. When you bring the data into Adaptive, you can have both actual data and planned data. Now you can see on my screen here, 2014 is all green, and that means in this model that's all set up as actual data. 2015 would be budget data, so going out. So in this particular view, we're going to assume we're at the end of 14 and we're budgeting 2015. So you can see here at the high level, this is your typical corporate P&L. Under each of these is all the chart of accounts that you might want to look at and drill down into all the various data. More importantly, you have the ability to, sorry about that, you have the ability to drill down into the various business units and departments underneath this. So you can immediately drill down. You can see all the individual units here. Not only the total company, but we can drill down into each of the different levels we have within the organization. We have all the organization levels set up right here, and we can drill down into any one of those and see what's going on at the individual levels. Likewise, for planning purposes, we can plan down at this level so that the individual department managers can look at their expenses and do their planning accordingly. So again, if we drill down a little bit into a little bit of detail, we can see here you can actually input numbers right here for individual budgets. For things like payroll and headcount, we can bring that information is coming in. You can see it's coming in from the personnel sheets. We can do detailed personnel planning. Likewise, not only can you have your working budget, you can do various scenarios. You can do a Q1 scenario. And now we're going to roll out a little bit. Now we have actual data for January, February, March for Q1, and then we're going to maybe update the budget for going out. The original budget's still been preserved. It hasn't been changed, but now we can reforecast going out. And just as before, when I look at this, I can look at my numbers here and say, okay, so I don't even know what my $5,000 on meals are, but if I click on that, I can drill right down into individual transaction levels and see what that transactions are all about. So a tremendous amount of flexibility to drive down and to look at the information. Likewise, you don't always want to look at the corporate, kind of the classic P&L. We can also have various functional P&Ls, again, for the different business units. Kind of a different view. This is the kind of a department view that you can look at as well. In addition to doing detailed income statement planning, of course, we can also do the balance sheet. A lot of companies don't do the balance sheet in their planning and forecasting because it can be very difficult to forecast in Excel. But in adaptive planning, it becomes a very easy and integrated part of the budget. So just as you update your plan, for instance, as you update your revenue, it would increase your accounts receivable. You would automatically change maybe your cash flow. As you hire people, you might want to add fixed assets. All those things can be very easily built into the model. Likewise, of course, because people are very interested in cash flow, we can drill right into the cash flow as well, drive that right off the balance sheet. All of this is really driven very quickly by all these detailed sheets. We can actually do the detailed planning for things like personnel. We actually can plan personnel down at the detail level by department. So we can see here, for instance, in this particular demo model, we have not only the employees, we have their various titles. We also have state of residence because we need to plan taxes. Every state has different taxes. We can have start and end dates as appropriate. You can see here as we have new hires being added right here. The expenses would begin on those dates and then move out from there. Likewise, on the end dates here, those expenses would stop. Presumably Gordon Miller is going to retire or something like that at the end of the period. We can plan health care benefits, raises, of course, salaries. One of the really convenient parts about this, of course, is you can allocate your expenses very quickly among your various departments. So you can see William Clark here, for instance. He's listed 3 times, but really what we've done is we've just allocated his expenses going out. So he's only considered 1 FTE. So when we run our FTE reports, he's only captured once. So we're not counting him multiple times, but we're simply allocating his salary across all of these departments, or these 3 departments, sales, Canada, and UK. And if you need to change those because at some point later in the year he's going to change and maybe he's going to go spend less time in the UK and more time in Canada, you can simply change that, carry both of those off to the end, and you've just reallocated his time. As soon as you save this, the budget is updated, his time has been reallocated, and all of the related benefit tax expenses have all been reallocated as well. So when you move people around, it's a very, very simple process to reallocate them and move them around. So it gives you a little bit of the sense of the flexibility you have within this tool to really kind of be very efficient in doing your budget. Unlike if you try to do that in Excel, that process can be very, very difficult. I, of course, am sitting here as the administrator of the system. If I was jumping in an individual department like this is the Sales North, the Sales North manager would only see his or her people. So the system immediately knows who you are when you log in. And while the reports are all the same in terms of format, the screens are all the same in terms of format, the information the individual manager sees is limited to just what's in their department. So the Sales North manager is only going to see the folks in his or her department and that their salaries and information. They can't see the entire company. The only folks who see the entire company are folks that have access to that. Typically the FP&A folks, maybe HR, whoever has access to that. So the system immediately allocates, when you log in, it immediately knows who you are, what departments you're responsible for, and you only see that level of information. Of course, at the end, what people are always very interested in is the reporting, and that's what we really want to spend a few minutes talking about. And this is where, of course, if you're doing this in Excel, this can become a very, very difficult process. Within Adaptive, we can create in all these different folders, we can create lots and lots of different reports. You can create as many reports as you want. Each individual user can have their own set of reports that they can basically file here. And then you can have some favorites. So I've just selected a few, and I've kind of left up here in the favorites. These are the ones I want to see all the time. You know, if I look in some of these other folders, there's lots of different reports, but I don't want to use those all the time, so I'm just going to have a handful I'm going to save right here. Some of the reports in blue are essentially HTML reports, which is to say they're really designed to be viewed online. So when we run these, it's essentially designed to come up on the screen. You can see when this report runs, I can select any period I want to run it for. I just happen to run it from March 15. And likewise, I can run it for any department. I'm running it the total company, but if I run it for Sales North, if I just want to see that information, the report looks the same, but the information now is limited to just the Sales North. Likewise, as I said before, if I'm the Sales North manager, I'm only going to see this information, so I'm not going to have access unless you want me to, FP&A wants me to. I'm only going to have access to this little bit of information. I can immediately look at this. I can see the variances. You can see that it's a little hard to see on your screen, but there's a little footnote there. So rather than the end note, I can bring it right online. So you can actually comment right here on variances and why those variances are happening. Likewise, I can click on the actual, see what that is, because I don't necessarily remember why I spent $2,300. And I can drill into that, and there's the $2,300. I can look at those invoices, and now I know why I spent that money. So I need to do my explanation. I can do that very, very quickly and easily. And I just kicked myself out of the system. Sorry about that. So we'll jump over to John for a moment on BI, and I'll come back and show you the other reports here in a minute. I apologize, I hit the wrong button there. So let's jump over to John, and I'll come back and show you the other reports.
All right, thanks, John. Don't do this at home, kids. All right,
Sorry about that.
I'll try and stay clear of the exit button here and walk you through from a BI perspective. So what you're looking at here is our access point for Dynamic Insights, which shows the 3 predefined dashboards that we have in place. We have a sales dashboard, finance, and executive, as I mentioned earlier. This is all through a web browser, so this is how your users within the business would consume and use these dashboards and analytics. And I think where whilst John's demo kind of portrayed the day in the life of certainly CFOs, controllers, everyone within the finance organization, and although it can be extended beyond, oftentimes there are other people within the organization who might want to see some of the data slightly differently and perhaps not in a finance context with some different visualizations in there. And so that's what we have here with this capability. So the solution as a whole provides you with both elements. So let's dive into our sales dashboard here and give you a little flavor of what we're looking at here. So you'll see that we have a multi-sheet environment. Again, this is all through a web browser, so you'd be in Internet Explorer or whatever your favorite web browser is. We have some predefined views set up here. So along the left-hand side, we have some selections that we can make, whether it be sales rep, item group, the country of the customer. We have some time selections that we can make across the top here. And then in the body of the dashboard, we have several different visualizations. So at the moment, what we're doing is looking at sales. We're looking at December 2011 versus December 2010. We can see that we're up 13% year over year. We can switch that to be a quarter-to-date view if we want to do that, or a year-to-date view. Very easy to switch between the two. Not only is this view changing, but the item growth chart that we're showing here, which shows the item groups and the countries that we are selling them in, this gives you a high-level visualization of where some of that growth is happening. and how you're doing sales versus budget. Across the bottom here, again with item groups, we have a trend of the sales, or indeed it could be the orders, or it could be an order count, or commissions. Again, although this is predefined dashboards that we have here that people can go in and use on day one, these are very flexible and easy to configure and customize and extend beyond what is in here. So how does this work? Well, we've seen how we can change between year to date and the time period. So if we want to now look at, well, what is our highest selling product, for instance, I'm going to go to the product page here, and we can see that from this page that speakers is our biggest item group that we have within our business here, within our mock business. So I'm going to pick speakers here, and as a selection, or we can pick it from the item group over here. Well, if I can spell properly, we can. So I'm going to pick both of these item groups. Maybe not. Go back a step. All right, let's drill into the speakers on this particular view here. So now we're looking at the speakers and the